Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Viva Jerry. On this channel, we'll be talking about the five love language in parts, and we have treated the part one and two of it. This is the part three of it. Part one, we talked about the word of affirmation as the love language, and part two, we talked about physical touch, where we hosted a guest, Dr. Grace, who came to talk to us on physical touch as a love language. And right now, this is the part three of it, where I'll be talking about quality time. Basically, the five love languages are word of affirmation, physical touch, quality time, acts of service, and receiving gifts. Now, this is the part three of it, where I'll be talking about the quality time. Time is one of the five love languages that talked about your spouse feeling loved when you give your spouse your time, when you give your spouse your undivided attention, your full attention. Now, if you are someone who your spouse have complained in the past of not feeling loved, of you not giving him or her your time and attention, and had complained about the fact that you don't take him or her out to have fun time and all that, it could be that your spouse's love language is quality time. And if time is not taken, his or her love tank might be empty right now. If quality time is their love language and you haven't been giving them your time and attention. Hope you understand perfectly what quality time is right now. So now I'll be giving you some aspects of quality time is togetherness. It could be that you've been in the same house with your spouse, but he or she still complains of the fact that they don't feel loved, of the fact that you are not giving them your time. It could be that you and your spouse watch movies together, yet they don't feel that you've been giving them your time. This is because togetherness has to do with being together and communicating, not just being around. There's a difference between close proximity and togetherness. What really matters most in togetherness is the emotion, the connection of you spending your time and undivided attention with your spouse. Another aspect of quality time is quality conversation. Now, when I talk about quality conversation, I mean when you and your spouse is together having concrete and sympathetic dialogue that communicates your feelings, your thoughts, and your desires in a comfortable environment where he or she is free to be himself or herself around you. Now, in quality conversation, you don't just listen to your spouse to know the problem he or she is trying to share with you and to create solution. But when you listen to understand your spouse's feeling, to understand the feeling he or she is trying to communicate with you. Because understanding the feeling is most times what matters to your spouse when their love language is quality time. Now, when I talk about feelings, there are lots of feelings that could be passed in a conversation. Some of those feelings are a feeling of anger, a feeling of disappointment, a feeling of frustration, of being frustrated, a feeling of being pissed, a feeling of being happy, a feeling of being joyful, a feeling of being in a good mood. Most times when we communicate, our words does not really do justice to how we feel or our desire. So it is very important that when the conversation is going on, you listen to your spouse's body language to understand perfectly how the person feels. It could be different body languages that would communicate better and make you understand better when the words are not really doing justice to the feeling and the desire of your spouse at that moment. Okay, so now I'm going to be telling you the ways in which you can hold quality conversation with your spouse. The very first one I have here is maintaining eye contact. There's something about eye contact in conversation. When you're holding a conversation with your spouse and your spouse is looking at you and you're looking at him or her and your eyes is in contact, it kind of give your spouse this understanding that you are really paying attention to him or her. Let your eyes be focused on the eyes of your spouse so you could understand your spouse perfectly. Number two, don't mix up activities. Yes, a lot of people think they are holding conversation with their spouse, but on the other hand, the spouse is not feeling your presence. And that is because probably you're scrolling through your phone while your spouse is talking to you, or you're doing something else, or probably you're doing one activity or the other. But the truth is that one of the ways to hold quality conversation is not mixing up activities. When it's time to talk to have a conversation with your spouse, ensure you're seated, ensure you're paying attention to any other thing, so that you could give your spouse your undivided attention. Listen for feelings. Don't just listen to the words. Listen to the body language your spouse is trying to portray at that time. Look deep and understand very well the feeling your spouse is trying to portray. It could be that your spouse is happy about what he or she is telling you about, then you also could be joyful and happy with your spouse. It could be that your spouse is angry or upset about certain things or frustrated. Another thing is that it is very necessary to observe your spouse's body language while they speak. In the body language, you could get more information about what your spouse is saying, and it could be that you might misunderstand your spouse's body language and the words. So it is very important to ask your spouse, okay, you mean this, you mean could it be that you're angry? Okay, you mean you're angry about the situation? Try as much as possible to ask questions to clarify your observation, to ensure that your observation of what your spouse is communicating to you is clear, and it's not that you're trying to misunderstand what your spouse is saying. Ensure you ask questions for clarity's sake. In the book The Five Love Language by Gary Chapman, he talked about the fact that a study had been made, and it is said that every human has 17 seconds of attention span while listening to the other person before they interrupt. That leads me to my last point, which says that refuse to interrupt. Once your spouse is communicating to you, temptation to interrupt will definitely pop up, but ensure you kill that desire to interrupt. Listen to your spouse to the very end before you come in with your own suggestions, with your solutions, or with your contribution or whatever. Another aspect of quality conversation I'll be talking about is learn to talk. In as much as it is important to learn how to listen, it's also very important to learn how to talk. Now, the truth is that there are two different personalities. There are these personalities that whatsoever goes through their eyes and their ears will definitely come out through their mouths. And there are these personalities that whatsoever goes in their ears and their eyes will never come out through their mouth. They fight really hard to talk, to air their opinions and all of that. Some are built due to background and upbringing in some homes. Once a child tries to say what they want or request for what they want from their parents, they are being shut up and given reasons why they can't have that stuff. Also, in some homes, when a child tries to tell their parents how they feel, how they're angry about what the parent did to them or something, they are being shut down and asked to shut up. And they grow up in that understanding of not being able to air their views, of not being able to communicate their feelings, of not being able to communicate their desire, of not being able to make requests and all of that. So they end up keeping quiet when they need to speak. They end up remaining silent when they need to speak. When they're in a favorable situation, they don't speak out and all of that. So those kind of people need to learn to speak. For a relationship to thrive, the both parties must be ready to communicate. Communication is a very vital aspect of relationship. The other personalities are people that talk. Anything they hear, they must say. Anything that comes on their mind, they must say. And on the other hand, this particular personality could also learn to keep quiet when necessary. When it is not necessary to talk, you learn to keep quiet. On the other hand, the other personality also needs to learn to speak. So life is a journey, and while we move through this journey, we have to learn and unlearn. We have to learn to air our feelings to our spouse, learn to be open. Many people complain that they don't know their spouse. It could be because that this person don't speak at all. They listen, they only listen and listen. They know their spouse really well, but their spouse does not feel like he or she knows them because they don't speak, they don't communicate about their past, they don't talk about their family, they don't talk about anything. The spouse will just sit down one day and be wondering, do I really know this person? So for your spouse to know you, you have to be open. Openness is very important in a relationship. Be open to communicate your feelings, be open to communicate your desire, be open to communicate your thoughts. It is really very important so that your spouse could feel comfortable around you, because once you're too blocked, once you're too quiet, once you're close at all time, your spouse don't feel like they know you. Another very important thing is that you have to learn to acknowledge your feeling. Most people acknowledge their feelings, they only air their thoughts. Communicate your feeling at every point in time in your relationship. Don't just say what you think, say what you feel. It is really important. It will also help your spouse to be comfortable. Another aspect of quality time as a love language is quality activities. It is really very important to engage in activities together with your spouse. If the love language of your spouse is quality time, then it is very important that you take this really seriously. Quality activities, try as much as possible to engage or to do one or two activities together as often as possible. Activities that you both love to do, or either of you love to do, then the other person is ready to carry out the activity with him or her, and all of that. For a relationship to thrive, you have to be deliberate about it. You don't just do what you like and what you love at all time. Be ready to do what your spouse love also. Go out together with your spouse, enjoy good time, have good conversation, understand your feelings per time and all of that. It is really important. If your spouse is that kind of person who loves to cook, when last did you join her in the kitchen to cook? If your spouse loves sports like football, soccer, and the rest, when last did you go on the soccer field with your spouse? When last did you do what your spouse loves to do with him or her? This is a very important aspect of your relationship, especially when your spouse's love language is quality time. So I want you to consider all of this and put it into practice, into use, very importantly, and see a change and see how happy your spouse will be, especially when their love language is quality time. Thank you so much for watching this video to the very end. Have you subscribed? If you haven't, please click the subscribe button, drop a comment, and like this video. Also share if you can. And thank you so much for watching, and God bless you. Until my next video, goodbye for now.